Hey everyone, it's Des and Marco with After School with the Admins. Thank you for tuning in. Please like and subscribe, share with a friend. Here's our newest episode.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of After School with the Admins. I'm your host, Marco Torillo, and I'm here with my co-host,
Des Caldwell. Welcome, everyone. Glad to hear you back. And we have the honor of bringing back a past guest whose conversation was so intriguing. And we felt like we could have continued the conversation forever. And felt like we cut it short. And so we wanted to run it back, as they say on the courts. Let's run it back. So we've got, Marco, I'll let you do the introduction.
We have with us educational royalty, the National Middle School Principal of the Year, Connecticut Middle School Principal of the Year, Dr. Damon Lewis. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us again.
Oh, thank you for having me back, Marco and Des. I'm looking forward to some more intriguing conversation and open up some eyes to the possibilities of what we can do with kids and families. That's it. That's the only agenda. That's it.
And that's all it should ever be. And that's why we enjoyed the conversation with you the first time, because we all felt we were all speaking the same language, the same things like we talked about. I actually went back and listened to it a few days ago to kind of see about like where were some of the questions I know we were started to talk about, didn't get deep into. One of the things I just remember that we talked about, it was just being the work, and like just it's what we do. Like we have to go out and do those things. We've got to be a part of it. And it's just like it's not shocking, it's not taboo, it's nothing crazy. It's just putting in the time, putting in the effort, and meeting people where they're at. And we just thought great pieces were coming out of that conversation. So, we're so excited to have you back again. So we thank you for coming on. Our first question, and this is probably the one that's it's been a year now that you've been the National Principal of the Year, Connecticut Principal of the Year. What has changed? What's the same? We know you're all over the place. I got you on the cover of Principal Leadership magazine. I got you, out and about with documentaries being done about you. We know you're speaking in different podcasts. We know you're all over the place. How has it been this year going through that process and the opportunities that have opened up? And then also, how has it been trying to still stay the course? Because we're still in school. We're in a brand new school year, and you still got to do the job of the principal. Everyone's expecting you to still be that guy there, but also now be that guy for the nation too.
Right. Right. It's ironic if I can go back a little bit. When I was first nominated for the state award, I think I said in the last podcast that initially I wasn't going to do it. I don't know if I shared it. I wasn't going to do it because of what we just talked about. The three of us don't go into this for the accolades, right? For the affirmations. If we're self-confident, self-aware enough of what we're doing and what our goals are, it's nice to have a pat on the back, but we don't look for that pat on the back. Right? Like you said, Marco, the work is the work. Right? So regardless if I was nominated or if I won, it's not going to change my course. Right? It hasn't changed my course the whole time I've been in education. So when I found out I was going to be nominated, I initially went to my assistant principal, Evan Byron, and I told him, I walked right into his office. I said, Evan, I really don't want to do this. I told him, I said, I don't want to do this. And he said, Damon, if you don't do it for you, do it for the school. We're doing great things in our building. Our kids are doing great. Do it for the school. Then I took that nugget home and I talked to my wife, and she said the same thing. She said, do it for the school. Shine light on your school and your staff and what kids are doing, and then do it that way. Along this ride, we were named in February, I believe. We found out in February for the state. I found out on July 9th for the nation. I did share my admin team and my staff. I said, I don't want this to be overbearing, but there are going to be, I spoke at a faculty meeting, there are going to be some times where the people in the building and they're walking around and they're taking pictures and they're taking videos and they want to ask you questions and so on and so forth. So I said, if there's ever a time where it is overbearing, please let me know. That type of relationship I have with the staff. Let me know, and I'll say no more often, because it disrupts the daily practice and daily flow of what we're doing in our building. To this point, no one has said anything. As soon as I find out someone wants to come in or what have you, I let them know, 2, 3, sometimes a week in advance. We're going to visit some classrooms. They want to see this. They want to see that. They want to interview some staff members. So to that point, I've been, as always, fully transparent and letting staff know that this is what's going on. What's changed? There have been some districts in the state of Connecticut that have come to PONUS, that have wanted to walk around and see, as they say, what the secret sauce is, and what you're doing here in Norwalk, Connecticut. And I think the big draw, Marco and Des, is that if I can even speak more freely here, that I think people are, I want to use the word amazed, but Des, use the word intrigued. Intrigued by what's going on in a building that's 90% students of color, right? And we all know, again, if I have permission to speak freely, we all know some of the misconceptions and stereotypes that people have around buildings that are predominantly students of color, right? They think low achievement, they think a high teacher turnover rate, they think a ridiculous amount of suspensions, they think no teaching and learning's going on, they think high absenteeism, right? They think all these things. So to read about what we're doing at PONUS and what you guys are doing as a collective, people are like, what are they doing? Why does PONUS Racine Academy, a school that's, again, 90% students of color, have a 39-person waiting list? I have a waiting list to get into the school, right? So I'm not a mathematician. I taught English, but I know if you lined up 10 kids, 9 of them are students of color, right? If you line up 30 kids, I'm sorry, one of them is a non-student of color. If you line up 10 kids, if you line up 30 kids, 3 of them are. So when people see that demographic and then the 70% free reduced lunch rate, it's like, we want to come in and see what you're doing. So I think that has shined a light on not just PONUS, but other schools in the nation, in our state, that have that high student of color demographic and high free reduced lunch rate that are doing great things. So it kind of debunks that stereotype that kids from low income areas don't have the cognitive ability, don't have the program offerings, are lazy, are all those misconceptions and stereotypes that people think but don't sometimes say. Let's keep it 100. They think but don't sometimes say. We're kind of turning that on its head. So in terms of, again, answering your question, Marco, changing what's changed, people want to come into the school. They want to see what's going on. There's been a national spotlight, shined on Norwalk because of this award, because of the national award and the state award. There have been a lot of requests, as you said, do interviews and podcasts and for magazines and webinars and sit on panels and, speak to different groups and agencies. In the summer, I spoke to the new recruits from the Bridgeport Police Department. And I spoke with them for about 2 hours about leadership and the intangibles and core values and not losing yourself in the work, right? And always finding who you are and what you represent, so you don't become a conformist, right? And just going along to get along. And I think sometimes in education, too many people do that. I know I dropped my hat in a lot of buckets, but things have changed a little bit.
How does it feel for your staff? I mean, you've always had, I think it was walkthrough Wednesdays. You've always had people in the building. You've always had an open door, come and see what we're doing. I imagine there have been considerably more people in the buildings coming through. is there any pressure, not necessarily from you, but just maybe your teachers are putting on themselves for the, quote unquote dog and pony show? And, if people are always there, how do they maintain, I don't know that you can maintain a dog and pony show
right
that often, which is why it's called the dog and pony show. But what, talk to us about how, that atmosphere for the teachers exists.
That's a great question, Des. And I thought about that, and I always talk about the 5 P's. I talk about proper preparation prevents poor performance, right? And I say that with staff, I say that with kids. The way that my admin team and we work together, we're always bringing people in the building. You spoke to Walkthrough Wednesdays. I always invite central office staff to come in, community members, right? Board members, just to come in and see what's going on. So quite honestly, Des and Marco, the staff is used to it, right? They're used to having other people in the building. And I make it analogous to the same way we do formal observations, right? The T-Val system. My admin team and I are in the classroom so much, doing drop-ins, giving informal feedback, doing instructional tandems, that when we do come in for a formal observation, they're used to us being there. It's like, oh, Dr. Lewis is there, okay. And it's a normal route. We've normalized it. So it's really nothing new. The only thing that's really new is that someone's walking around, sometimes 2 or 3 people, with a camera and have a microphone on my lapel. But other than that, it's, I don't want to say it's business as usual, because it's not, but the staff, they're used to it, because we've created that mindset in the building that we're going to bring people in, right? We are going to go into classrooms. You guys doing great things with our kids. We want people to see that. So this is just, I don't say another layer. It's just a different layer.
I love the fact that you called it what it is right away in the way when you were talking about it, about the fact that schools are now coming to you because they want to find that secret sauce. But the fact of the matter is, it's not even so much that, it's what you called it next, the fact of that, what you're doing with the student population you have. Because their mindset is, you shouldn't be able to do that.
Correct.
And your mindset is, no, we do this for everyone.
Right.
This is what we do here. And that is what I love best about that entire speech you gave there, because it was just about the fact of, this is what we do. Every single kid matters. Every single kid gets the same experience. They are going to be held to the same expectations. We'll meet them where they're at. We'll find ways to get them to where they need to go. But don't think that it's something different. Like we have some like special thing that we give to that one kid, and now that kid all of a sudden can do the things that, everyone believed they can't. It's not that. It's the belief. It's the expectation. It's the understanding of them, and being like, we will hold everyone high. Right. And I like that you say that, and you bring that right away, because you said like we'll keep it 100. They are looking for that answer from you. Right. They just want to see that, because, they're whatever district that has 20% Black and brown students, or so low socioeconomic students, and they're trying to find out, well, what do I need to do differently for them to get them where they need to be? And instead, you're like, you don't do anything differently. You hold them to the same exact standard of everybody else. Right. Right. And I think that's great the way you put that, because that is one of the most important things for people to see and understand. And I love the fact that you do that, and how you hold that statement right away. And it's not even one, you don't hide it, you don't try to do anything. And then I also love the fact of that in that entire time, you didn't once say a single thing you do. You brought it about your school. It's we do this. And that's what it is. It's that team mentality. I think that's part of the reason why you are so successful, is that it is a we. It's not a, hey, I'm going to come in, I'm going to do all this stuff. Like, I'll be here to get, it's we do this. We as a school. Like, Des asked that question about, how do they feel having those people in? We do this all the time. We as a group understand this mentality of what we do here in this school. Nothing changes. There's no dog and pony show. It is an every day we do this. No matter what day of the week you're coming in, you're seeing the same stuff occurring every time. I think that is part of the key to your success, and why probably your staff follows you even with it, because you have that ability to say those things.
But there's an unspoken piece to that I think really can get lost, and I think will do disservice if we don't acknowledge it. And to me, anyway, that piece is, when we have students who have been marginalized, when we have students who have not received the necessary supports historically, students who have lots of barriers in their way, when we say, we're doing the same thing for them that we're doing for everyone else, I think we also have to go a step further and say, here are the amazing things that we are doing. And we did that in the first podcast. And folks, if you're listening for the first time and you didn't listen that first one, please go back and listen. You don't need to put on a dog and pony show when your tier one is the dog and pony show, right? It's what's being done anyway, right? You don't have to, break out the fine china when you've got beautiful dishes to eat on already. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want anyone listening for the first time and hearing that, oh, everybody gets the same thing. Well, yeah, everybody gets the same thing when what they're being given is already a top-notch product, right? And I don't want that lost in the conversation, because you're doing some really great things at the school and throughout the community. And I don't want people to think, oh, I'm just doing regular smegular and everybody should be successful if we just do regular smegular. I don't know where it came from.
That's a good point. Yes.
Well, I wanted to go kind of feeding off of that. You said, I was reading your article that you had, and one of the things you said a quote, and I'm going to try and put it specifically what you said. Disrupting the status quo for the sake of students, and that you and your staff do not discuss challenges, but say those are opportunities to grow. Can you go a little deeper into that and how that fits into that model of what we're talking about here?
You know what? Challenges, I feel like spiking my tongue now. I don't use the word challenges. Right. So we talk about what, when we meet with teachers, we talk about what are your strengths, right? And I ask all staff, if I could take it a step backward, I ask all staff in my admin team, what are your strengths, and what is your strongest strength, and how does that strength manifest itself at work? Right? What is your strongest strength, and how does that strength manifest itself at work? I ask teachers that, I ask my admin team that, because if you're relying on that super strength, right, that's your go-to, how does it manifest itself? How does it rear its head? How are you being the best version of yourself every day? So to answer your question, Marco, to go further into that, we don't discuss challenges. It's always opportunities to grow. And just a concrete example is that we're not afraid, like I said, to buck the status quo. I know in certain schools, once the kid's schedule is locked in, I'll tell you this, between late September and the first 2 weeks in October, we changed close to 100 kids' schedule. Right there. We had beginning of the year district assessments, right? NWEA, kids fit specific criteria to go into accelerated math, to go into gifted and talented, right? And then on the flip side, we have some kids that had to get some additional tier 2 support in reading or math. Right then and there, we make the switch. The school counselors are fantastic. They contact the parents. We let them know the reasoning, the rationale. So the status quo was just going along to get along, like I talked about earlier. And if you have 75 to 80 kids who fit a specific criteria now to go into accelerated math, that's going to get them to algebra by 8th grade, right? That's going to put them on a trajectory for calculus by a senior. If you don't do it now, you're wasting a year. So you're going to have a kid sitting in that Common Core math class who's going to get all A pluses, that's not going to be challenged, and they're going to waste a year. They're not going to get the calculus as a senior. If we can do it in our building to get that kid into accelerated math in 6th grade or 7th grade to improve their life trajectory and their outcomes 4 or 5 years from now, right? we're going to do that. And I always say that there's a difference between having sight and having vision, right? People can have sight, but you got to have the vision. We all have sight, but do we all have vision? Do we all see that 4 or 5 years down the road? That if I don't move that kid into accelerated math or gifted and talented, I'm reducing their opportunity to grow and really flourish. And that's, again, for all kids. I don't care what color you are, or how much money you have. If you fit the criteria, you're going in, because we want you to grow. We want you to be, use the word challenged. We want you to be challenged in those academic courses. I think it's really, really important that if you're hiring, when you're hiring people, you hire people you can trust, then you trust people who you hire, right? But along that same token, you want to hire people who, and Des talked about some of the factors that come with external factors that sometimes people from the outside may want to use as excuses, that come and work in the school that's predominantly students of color, right? You want your staff to be culturally competent, right? I love to hire teachers of color, train them, retain them, keep them there, because our kids need to see it. But by the same token, if we don't have a teacher of color in that applicant pool, we have to make sure that that teacher is culturally competent, right? That they understand where kids are coming from, that they can, as you said, Marco, meet the kids where they are, right? So when we interview people, we always talk about, one of the first 2 or 3 things out of our mouth, we talk about our demographic. We put it out there. We're very deliberate, intentional. Our students, we're 90% students of color, 75% free and reduced lunch. And then we always say, and, not but, and we're doing great things. So that already puts the candidate in the mindset that you're going to come here and work. Our kids can do it, have that belief. So when we run into that status quo, please know that we're going to buck it. And we're just not going to ride the wave and go along to get along. And challenges, no, that's just where's your opportunity to grow? And if our opportunities to grow are in improving outcomes for kids, placing kids in the right courses when they fit the criteria right then and there. We're only in school for a month in September, right? So between the end of September, first 2 weeks of October, kids are moving. Kids are moving into that accelerated math class, into that gifted and talented a little later down the line. But if a kid needs tier 2 support, we'll put them in a specialized reading class, specialized math class. And I think another key that's really helped us is that in those tier 2 classes, Des, you talked about strong tier 1 instruction. In those tier 2 classes, we are using tier 1 materials. We're not using a different material. So if a kid needs support in math, right, we're not using IM in a tier 1 math class, and then we're going to go to Math 180 in their tier 2. We're using IM across the board in tier 1 and tier 2 with scaffolds, right, with the support they need, but we're not flooding kids with all these different materials. So they say, okay, we do this in my tier 1, then I'm doing this in my tier 2, and I'm doing this, I'm using IXL in the after school program. It's one resource. So the kids are more exposed to it and they're more familiar with it. And then that leads us to, again, setting that same expectation and standard for all kids. All kids have access to the same high quality instructional materials. All kids have access to high quality teaching and learning, right? All kids have access to one another when we work in groups and we collaborate. So it's just the work that we do. And again, just to go back, it's not a dog and pony show. It's the everyday in our building. And so, I always talk about people talk about, what's great and how do you become this and how to become that. And I said, the key to any of it is just being consistent, getting up and doing the same thing every day, right? Not deviating from the path and following that and believing in that. You put more emphasis on process over product, right? I'm really, really big with logistics. It sounds great, but how's it going to get done? Who's going to do it? Who's it going to impact? Focus on the process and the product will take care of itself. If we're implementing strong tier 1 instruction and all kids have access to it, whether MLL students, special education students, non-MLL, non-special ed, we're going to see increases in gains in everything across the board. And I like to highlight specifically how our kids come into sixth grade, and maybe quite honestly, a third of our sixth graders are below grade level. Honestly, a third. But I always like to, follow that growth and that trajectory. But by the end of in the fall of eighth grade, because we've been consistent, our eighth graders take the PSAT scores, and our PSAT scores out metric our district, our state, and the nation. But these are kids that come in below grade level standard. But we stay consistent in our path. Again, we buck the status quo, Marco. We're not afraid to do it. And I know I played sports in college. And I know, Marco, you played sports and what have you. You oftentimes hear that the personality of the team takes on the personality of the coach. It's the same thing in education. The personality of the principal, of the leader, bleeds into every part of the organization. So they know my story. They know how I feel about equity and access, and everyone can learn. So it it bleeds into people's belief system.
Question for you, hearing your statements there that I have, and again, like we said it last time, when you talk, it's like listening to gospel. Like you got the preachers up telling you, and you're hanging on the words.
Okay.
Because just you have like that infectious talk to you. So like as you're saying it, you believe right away. Like, okay, I can get behind each one of these things that he's saying. Question I have is, how did you first? Because I got two parts to it.
Sure.
First, how did you get your staff to go with the fact of those changes in that first month and a half? Because we know, like, sometimes we have staff, especially when, like, probably would first come into the school, we're going through this process. They're like, well, what do you mean? A month in, I'm getting new kids. I'm losing a kid. What's happening here? Now you're putting this kid in my class. I'm not sure about if that kid should be in my class. Like, you have all those naysays and all that chirping that happens. And it happens. We know it's going to occur. And there's people fear change when anything happens. How did you get staff to understand, buy in, and be a contributor in that part? My other question I have is about the demographic of your actual staff. Does the demographic of your staff match the demographic of your students? And then if not, how did you help them to understand those pieces that you went through, that you talked about, to be that culturally responsive group, to understand what they need to do to be able to see and understand their students?
Well, to answer the first part, Marco, I do a lot of front loading, right? I do a lot of front loading. So maybe the second week of school in September, right? I email the staff and I say, look, guys, now I'm paraphrasing. Look, guys, beginning of the year, district assessments are coming up. You know that we're going to change some student schedules, because that's what we do. We're going to change student schedules as soon as we get results in. So don't be surprised and or alarmed that if a new kid comes into your class, if a kid leaves your classroom, please know the school counselors are working behind the scenes and they're going to make all these changes. I just ask that you are open, willing to change and accept new kids into your classroom, because that is the culture of our building. So I front load that a lot. So I literally, like the second week in September, the email goes out that's going to happen. The second part, can you repeat the second part? Marco, I'm sorry.
No problem. Yeah. Second question was, does the demographic of your staff match the demographic of your students? And if it does, or if it doesn't, what did you do to help them understand your students? As you said about one of the questions you have when you interview is about making sure they are culturally relevant, culturally responsive, understanding that this is what our demographic is. This is our expectations for them. Like, how did you help your staff to see and understand and build to that same belief system? I personally, going with myself on this one, I think, and again, my personal belief in it, that's where sometimes a lot of staff struggle and the understanding of their students, because if you don't experience it, or you're not willing to listen and open up and understand the experiences of their students and where they may be coming from, what their families are like with that, and you remove your own prejudgments, it's hard to go and get those successes and find those. So I wanted to hear a little bit about that component of it, of like where you get.
Understood. Our staff demographic does not match our student demographic. We're about 67 to 70% Latinx, maybe about 16% Black African American. So in raw numbers, there are, in terms of African American staff, maybe 7 or 8, right? Maybe 7 or 8. There are, in terms of Latinx staff, maybe 6 or 7. Okay. We're fortunate to have 4 or 5 Black males in our building, right? Which is great. And 3 of the Black males, one me included, 3 of the Black males have doctorate degrees, right? So have a Black male science teacher, 2 Black male science teachers actually in the same grade, 2 female grade 6 teachers. So in terms of our Black teacher population, we may be pretty proportionate there, but our Latinx population in terms of staff, no, not even close, not even close. So how do I get teachers to be more culturally competent and culturally responsive? Again, there's really no secret sauce, Marco. When we have our beginning of the year meetings, this is our demographic. This is the population that we work with. The kids are going to come with some outside baggage, but then I say, just like you are, as adults, we're coming in with some outside baggage. So in order for us to be the best versions of ourselves, we have to truly work to understand where our students are coming from. And when we do home visits sometimes, Marco, we take a staff member or 2 with us on the home visit to see actually where the kids are coming from, what the house and or apartment looks like, right? So they have an idea about what's going on. Before the pandemic even started, we have a community partnership with someone called Filling in the Blanks, and they give food. And sometimes when families can't make it to come to get the food, we bring the food to the house or to the apartment or to the project or what have you. And it's eye-opening for some staff because they see that everything is not front lawns and full of grass and roses and a picket fence, right? It's concrete and brick and mortar, right? And I said in the state speech, Marco, if I remember correctly, I said we have a responsibility to educate kids, whether from the project to the penthouse and from the penthouse to the project. It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. So having those really, really transparent conversations with staff, again, there's no secret sauce. I'm not giving out books to read. This is what we're serving. And if this isn't the place for you, I understand. You're going to have kids that may come in that they didn't do their homework because when mom works 7 to 3, then comes home for an hour and a couple hours, then have to go back and work a 6 to 10, and they've got to be the babysitter. They've got to take care of the 2 or the 3-year-old, and they're 12 years old. So when they come in the next day, they may say, you know what, Mr. Turillo, Mr. Caldwell, I really meant to do my homework, but I had to give my sister a shower, and the teachers have to understand that, right? They've got to understand that our kids are coming in with certain, I'm not saying disadvantages, because I actually think it's an advantage because it builds resiliency and strength, and kids at 10, 11, 12 years old are learning not only these soft skills, but these hard adult skills, which sometimes they shouldn't have to, but when you're in certain situations, you do, and you're a better person because of it. You're a better human being because of it, right? And you're able to be much more resilient and handle adversity when it pops up in your face. Sometimes not sometimes, a lot of times I think our kids are much more resilient than our adults. I really do. And I say that freely. I really do. Because our kids, like I'm sure your kids, you have been through some stuff. Incarcerated parents, drug addicted parents, raised by grandmothers. I mean, and it's not a knock. It's just the reality of the situation. But again, we're not making excuses for it. We're not. And I think that, again, that the way I am as a leader bleeds into the staff. And they know my expectations. They know we're not selling for less. So it's either get on the bus or go out the front door. I'm sorry I don't have a canned answer for you, but it's just the truth.
So we absolutely never want the canned answer, but every time I hear you speak, I also think of all the different PD that we've either received or presented, and listening to you talk, like, that's asset-based education, right? Like, look, and we use so many different terms for it, whether we're saying we're being culturally responsive or shifting from deficit mindset to asset-based education. But the bottom line, the thing that not only stuck out, but like actually, like every time you talk, like there's so many connections. I'm like, yes, absolutely, right? The idea that the things that some of us look at as, oh, these are the struggles that our students are facing. I think about how many times I've had conversations with people who are dealing with, a middle schooler, especially, who is having a really difficult time. And they're like, we got to do this and this, and you got to hold this kid accountable, because what are they going to do in real life when blah, blah, blah. And it's like, real life? Are you serious? Real life?
They're living
it. Is that kid not living real life? Like, put them in your home for a week. You go to their home for a week, and let's talk about what is real life. And you use the word resiliency. What these kids are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And again, this isn't every child. So not every child that looks like Damon, that looks like you or looks like me, is living, these quote unquote struggles. But what our kids are dealing with, to then come to school and just to be able to get through the day, never mind thrive through the day. Those skills translate in ways that, I look at my kids, who, my kids are, my son's 11. If I told him that he was responsible for dinner tomorrow, right? Like, we're eating potato chips.
Right. And soda.
Right. So for an 11-year-old who can run a household because this is what my life requires, and some may say, oh, that's not fair. Okay, we can have that conversation too. But for that child to have that skill set, and then, come to school, and that child has to ask to use the restroom and be told to wait, right? Like, I try to balance those things with, I get it. Like, we've got to build systems and order and all that. But when you've got a 13-year-old, 14-year-old that runs a household, that then has to come to school, and we put all these additional obstacles in their ways sometimes, like, we have to think about what we're doing. And so, I don't want to get too far off base, but you mentioned that your staff doesn't quite look like your student body, right? But you also make it a point to go out into the community and to involve community, whether it be members, organizations, whatever, to become involved in your school community. And I don't want to get ahead of you, but it's feeling like that conversation is leaning toward, and those people do bring that sort of that cultural piece from the community, and allow the students to then re-engage and have folks that are familiar to them and their cultural needs. Could you talk about that a little more?
We have a speakers bureau, Des, where we bring speakers in from the outside to talk with our students about certain careers, right? And what it takes to, major in that career, what course they had to take, and so on and so forth. And I put a really big premium on bringing in speakers of color, a really big premium. I think it also helps that when you sit down with your admin team, that you can talk freely about race, social class, any of the things that can impact the daily operations of a school building. So when I talk like that, it's second nature, right? It's second nature. It really is. So to sit down and say, you know what, and I don't know if it's well received because A, I'm a principal, or A, because I'm a man of color, right? Right. And I don't know if the same message could be relayed, but I oftentimes tell myself, if I was a Black male principal at a predominantly white school and our white kids weren't performing, I would have no problem standing up and saying, hey guys, our white kids aren't performing. I'd have no problem saying that, because it's it would rest in data. This is what the data shows. Right. So to go back to your question, Des, to have more people come into the building that look like our students. We do have a speakers bureau that we're really intentional about trying to find speakers of color to come in. We have our Hispanic parent night, the first Wednesday night of every month from 6 to 7. And all of our speakers, 9.9 times out of 10, are Latinx speakers that come in and speak with our families. We have an international food night right in the spring where we bring, oh God, our cafeteria is full. We have over 350 people there that are bringing all their cultural dishes and dressing in their cultural garb and their attire. So we find ways and pockets to where we're not as strong in an area to kind of overcompensate in different systems and structures in our building, so our kids are seeing people that look like them in front of them. Does it happen every day? No, but we're constantly feeding that beast to try to make that happen. And you made a good point. I'm chuckling inside. You say, the kid has to go to the bathroom, and you say no. You're like, oh my goodness, I take care of a household, and I got to ask you to use the bathroom. It's funny. We actually have a system and structure in place. We purchased Smart Pass. You guys familiar with Smart Pass? Where we have a kiosk in every room, and kids, we've gotten to the point now where kids, when they have to go to the bathroom, they just get up and sign out and leave. They don't even have to ask. But our only rule is you cannot go to the bathroom the first 5 to 6 minutes of class, because we're doing a launch and the introduction, and you cannot go to the last 5 or 6 minutes because we're wrapping up with closure and exit tickets and some type of formative assessment. So we have a system for that. So a kid doesn't have to sit there and say, can I go to the bathroom? And the teacher says no. And then that kid in their head is saying, I just made spaghetti and meatballs last night. I changed the diaper. I gave a bath, and I got to ask to use the bathroom.
Dr. Lewis, I'm not surprised that you have a system for it.
The only time that a kid is, maybe told no or to wait is if that kid it's excessive. Because Smart Pass, they produce data. And we have our so-called frequent flyers that have to go to the bathroom every period. They gotta, how kids are. But kids are gonna be kids. Kids are gonna be kids. Right.
I love thinking back to you guys talking about that, and I'm just thinking of my own son, and like he's got no problems in school, good grades and stuff. But my kid can't work his way out of a paper bag if he tried. Like, I love him to death, but it's like I can give him 3 things to do. I'm lucky if the first one gets done, and it was just told him, and it'll be like, what were the other 2 things you asked again? And it's just like, and teachers would be like, why can't this kid act like this kid? And it's like, no, my son's not doing half the things that kid's doing. Like, he just sits down and stays quiet in class so he gets his work done. That's what you like about his compliance aspect.
Right?
Not actually doing anything of actual like understanding.
Yeah.
He doesn't remember to go and feed the animals after I leave. I have to go and call him 5 minutes later and be like, hey, did you do that yet? And they'll be like, I forgot. I'm going to go figure to go do that. Well, the other kid, like you said, is like, he's done the laundry. He's already like pressed the suits for his parents, like that, while going making sure dinner's being ready. And then like my kid is just like, oh wait, I didn't change the water. Okay, let me go do that right now. All right, buddy.
It's crazy. It's crazy what we're asking kids to do and thinking that they can't do. Right. Right.
And even think of like when we were kids, because I know I had a list of things to be done every single day, and it was just there. And it was if you didn't get it done, that was a rough conversation, or it could be something rougher going on if you didn't get it done by the time they got home from work. So it was not a hey, you get home and like, oh, go have a snack and relax. It was more of like, no, here's the list. All this must be done in the 2 hours. Oh, and by the way, get your homework done too.
That's right.
You're not doing anything else until that's set in stone.
That's right.
Yeah. Going into kind of feeding off of what Des started with there. In your article, you did talk a lot about your partnerships. Can you go into some of these partnerships? 1, like how you found some of them, and then also 2, some of them, and give a little details of what they do and how they contribute into your school community.
Sure. As educators, we all know everything starts with a data point, right? And then we, sit around, we develop a problem of practice and a theory of action. So, one thing I do in terms of finding out the needs for kids, I do bus duty every morning. Yeah, every morning I'm outside and I meet and greet all 12 buses. We have 12 buses coming to our building. And it's good morning to the kids as they get off. It's how was the ride in for the drivers? Were the kids okay? X, Y, and Z. But during that time, especially during the winter months, I'm taking data on the kids that are getting off the bus with a t-shirt on and no jacket, right? With shorts on, with no backpack, right? So everything we do, and I've said this, I think in our first podcast, hope and faith and education are not strategies. You've got to be intentional and deliberate. We cannot pick up the bowl of spaghetti, throw it against the wall, and hope that it sticks, right? We've got to be deliberate. So that's one of my deliberate steps, especially in the wintertime. Who's got a jacket? Who doesn't? Then we have a partner. The district has a partnership with the foundation, and the foundation donates maybe 100 jackets to my school, to other schools too, but I'm talking about my school I work in. And we send out a mass email to families. We tell them the sizes that we have, and we have a huge coat drive in our front lobby of our school building, and we have a popcorn machine, a nacho machine. So the families come in. We have a partnership with Bomba Socks, so we get free Bomba Socks. So we give out socks and jackets and popcorn and nachos and scarves and hats and gloves because of the partnership that we have with this particular foundation. In terms of filling in the blanks, we started filling in the blanks, Marco, pre-COVID, right? Because we saw a need because kids were coming to school hungry. And we knew that because you walk into a classroom and kids were on their desk sleeping. I'm going, 2018, 2019, before COVID. So our PTO, I asked them to do some research. They found out this company, this nonprofit called Filling in the Blanks. So I had them come in. We sat down. We talked. I told them our demographic. I told them what we serve. They said, Dr. Lewis, that's no problem. We will deliver food bags to your school, right? I put them in the hands of our school counselors. And every Friday, they would call the kids down. The kids would go to the school counselor's office with their backpack. And they put this huge bag of food into their backpack. They zip their backpack up, and then they get on a bus and they go home. Now, what was happening, that worked for about a year and a half. And then the kids kind of got smart, because they're kids, and they would get that food in their backpack. And then I get a call from the bus company that kids were ripping the bag open, and there was oatmeal and pasta thrown all over the bus, right? Because kids were being kids.
Yep.
Right? Kids would be, and you mix in some water with it, and kids were going home with pasty stuff on their face, and my phone's ringing. Okay, I know that's part of my job. I get it. All right. So I didn't want to discontinue it because I know families needed that. So we sat down again with Fill in the Blanks, and we problem solved and we troubleshot. And I said, listen, if we're a community school, we want to get more families into our community. We don't want the bags, but can you bring us pallets? And our custodians will unload the pallets into our food pantry, and then we have families physically come in and get the food. So it was a way to bring families in to the building. So Monday through Thursday from 3 to 5:30, families can literally come and go shopping. Right? They come to the front door. They say, I'm here for the food pantry. A staff member will call on the walkie to a staff member that's in the after school program that works it. They'll come greet the family, walk them down, and they literally give them a bag and they go shopping. I mean, pancake mix, tuna fish, everything except the beef, the chicken, the pork, everything but the meat. They get all the sides, Gatorade, milk, pasta, oatmeal, rice, black beans, soup, you name it, they get it. And they can come in Monday, they can come in Tuesday, they can come in as many times as they want, because Fill in the Blanks, they re-up, they come back every Tuesday morning. So that partnership has worked extremely well. It really has. We have a partnership with the Link program. And the Link program, they provide counseling for MLL students that are level 1 and 2, new to the country, new arrivals. And they meet with them one-on-one around resources, housing, food, clothing, and just the overall transition. Right? I mean, I can talk to you for hours and hours about talking about kids in their circumstances, right? I've had kids that have come over that have seen their parents killed, right? Have seen their parents killed and are sometimes scared to come to school because they think that someone's going to get them, right? So you can imagine being 10, 11, 12 years old and seeing your parents killed. And you're in Norwalk, Connecticut, living with a grandmother or an aunt who you literally just met. But to come to school every day, like we said, Des, to come to school, we have 650 kids, 650 different stories. Really. And the stories that some of our kids have, I'm sure they're mirrored in some aspect, are unbelievable. That will make your jaw drop and say, this kid is coming to school every day. Right? So the Link program provides counseling services for our newly arrived MLL students. We have a nurse's office, but we also have a school-based health center inside of our building. So the school-based health center provides wraparound services, physicals, counseling, family counseling. They received a grant last year, and they did some cooking classes with some of our kids and their parents, right? So again, every single rock that we can kick over, I'm trying to kick it over to get every single opportunity for kids and families to feel welcome, to feel empowered, to feel a part of our, not only our school, I call it a community because we offer a lot. I mean, our school day is over at 2:50, but we have an after-school program that's here till 5:30. We have people from the outside that rent our gym. We have play practice going on. It never closes. It seems like it never closes, and people know that the doors are open. I'm there. One of the admin team and myself, we're there pretty late. When I say pretty late, well, 5:15, 5:30. We get out at 2:50. But someone's always there to make sure that if there's a need to be met, that someone's accessible. You know what I mean? But that also helps, with these partnerships, filling in the blanks, the Link program, our school-based health center, Mid-Fairfield Child Guidance. They do counseling as well, social emotional needs for our kids. It's all a referral basis through our school counselors and our social workers. So we're always trying, and I said this previously, not only, academically, but socially, we're trying to accelerate the kids that need to be accelerated, but also intervene where we've got to intervene, and it's art and science. You've got to find a middle ground to, again, as we said before, meet kids where they are and provide them what they need in that exact moment. So we only have 6.5 hours a day. We've really got to maximize it. We really do. When you look at it, 24 hours in a day, we've only got our kids for 6.5.
Yeah.
Right. And we set a lot of those structures. I know I'm going off course a little bit, but we have a daily admin meeting. We meet every day as an admin team at 12 o'clock. I mean, it's on our calendar, hard, and we have an agenda for it from 12 o'clock to 12:30, because 12:31 starts sixth grade lunch. And each admin is responsible for a lunch wave, right? So I do eighth grade lunch. Assistant principal, Mr. Byron, does seventh grade lunch, and the other assistant principal, Ms. Brosnan, and our dean, they do sixth grade lunch, and we rotate. So next year I'll have the sixth graders. So I rotate, so I'm with the same group of kids in the cafeteria all 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And our counselors rotate as well. But it's those types of systems and structures and being consistent, right, that have helped us identify the needs in our building and really look at data as a driving point between not only academically, but what do our kids and families need socially,
Mm-hmm.
right, and behaviorally, and all the things that encompass, being a school leader. It's not just, our primary focus, we're instructional leaders, but we can't leave the other sides, the other parts, to hope and faith. We've got to put as much energy into social and emotional things as doing the academic criteria. That goes without saying, right? And I always say, what's the big ticket item for this year? We always go in with all these initiatives, right? We've got to do this. You know what I said? We've got one initiative. You know what our one initiative is? Continuous improvement. That's it. That's it. It lives in different buckets, but that's our only improvement. And reading and ELA and NGSS and attendance and suspension data and all that stuff falls into that continuous improvement. That's our one initiative. That's it. Because people get caught up in, we've got all these things. No, we don't. We just got to keep getting better. That's it. We just got to keep getting better. That's it.
And Dr. Lewis, that's why I said early on, like, you can't just throw regular smuggler out for everybody and say we're giving everybody the same thing, and that's why we're successful. Everybody has access to all the things that you are providing, but that is not the regular, everyday, this is just how a middle school is run. Mm-hmm. Like you over time, you have figured out the needs of your school, of the community. You figured out the strengths. You figured out what the community can bring to the school. You figured out what the school can bring to the community, and everybody is working in lockstep. And it is very, very obvious that you are making sure that everyone is properly prepared. And when they are properly prepared.
You know what I look at? I talked earlier. Thank you, Desmond. I talked earlier about, people can have sight, but it's more important to have vision, right? You have sight if you have vision, right? And I look at that SAI, or School Accountability Index, right? And I look at the first indicator I look at is on track for high school graduation. I don't look at ELA growth or high needs, non-high needs. I look at on track for high school graduation, because that tells me that what we did in middle school, that first year in high school in 9th grade, and that on track for graduation is earning 6 credits or more. That's what I look at. And if I see that, I want to say we were at like 94-95% of our 9th graders that were with us last year are on track for high school graduation. I'm good. That's the first indicator that I look at. How well did we do preparing kids so they could go to Brian McMahon High School or Norwalk High or P-Tech or wherever they're going to go, and they have earned, right? I would say everything earned, nothing given. I say it to the kids all the time. I'm not going to give you anything. You can earn it. And I say it to my own 3 kids. 95% of our 8th graders earn 6 credits or more as freshmen. That's the indicator I look at. And then I go up to, non-high needs, high needs, gap outlier. And I'm kind of upset. This is the first year I've ever had a gap outlier. I'm kind of upset. First year I've ever had a gap outlier. And I'm kicking myself. But I'll get better.
I got to be honest. I think right where we are is that perfect spot to end it with. Once you went with continuous improvement is our only goal.
That's it.
And the fact that you just said the statement of "I'll get better." You knew exactly what is. It didn't work. You're not happy about that one indicator, but you're going. It wasn't an answer of, it went wrong. Nothing. You're just I'll get better. Don't worry. It's not. It's not staying that way. It's going to be gone.
No.
I'll make sure of it by the time this year's done. That's gone, and we'll be back to where we want to be.
Exactly where we want to be.
That's a great statement of how you kind of put it too. You didn't just say like, "Hey, it happened. This is the reason. This is what we're going to do. We'll figure it out. It's all right." It was nope. I'll get better. We'll get better at this.
I'm not really big on excuses. I learned that from one of my mentors. He told me a statement I'll never ever forget. He said, "Excuses, Damon, are monuments of nothingness that build bridges to nowhere." Monuments of nothingness that build bridges to nowhere. He said, do not make excuses. In this world, people want to see results. People want to see, they don't want to hear, they don't want to hear the sad story. They don't want to hear that personally, that your parents got divorced, that your father got shot and killed. That's irrelevant. So what, now what? That was one of my podcasts, right? They don't want to hear that. What are you going to do now? Okay, that happened. You came to a fork in the road in your life. It's obvious you made the correct choice. You took the correct road, but people don't know that it was full of temptation and full of a whole lot of things, right? But by God's grace, I took the correct path, So I'm not big on excuses, and I think a lot of that has to come with also being a student athlete, right? And just being exposed to that. Coaches don't want to hear excuses. Just get it done. Just get it done.
Find a way or make a way.
Right. Make a way. Make a way, right?
There are a lot of great quotes coming out of this one. There's a lot of great quotes coming out of this one.
Make a way to get it done. I mean, it's just, you don't want to make excuses. You make excuses, and for all the time you spend talking about making an excuse, that's the time you could spend doing it.
And when you make that first excuse, you'll make them for the rest of your life.
Yes. So don't make them. So I can't say enough that every time I speak publicly, I always acknowledge my Lord and Savior. I do, and I said that at the state dinner, Mark, that I'm unwavering in that faith, And I don't know, that may have hit some people the wrong way, but quite honestly, I really don't care because that's who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Not I don't care, but that's he's my guide. You know, he's the best therapist in the world. You know, but and I also talk about, you know, Harding High School where I went in Bridgeport. I always talk about Harding and shout out Harding. Again, there's just so many things that I learned, and I first, you know, really learned about, and I didn't even know it then, right? About equity and, you know, you're a high school student, you're in a class of 28 kids, but there's 22 desks and there's 20 books, and they're like, that's not right. That's
Right.
not right.
It's not right, but it's okay because we're going to get it done.
You find a way.
Right.
And you find a way. So what did I do? I made sure I ran from class to class. I'm getting a seat. I'm getting the book. You can share with me, but it's my book.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm getting the book. So, you know, those are the things that we talk about. And in that article, Marco, I think one of the last paragraphs I said that my life really parallels my students' life, right? And Des, you talked about kids coming in now to our schools, and they've done all these things. Even when I was in school, I was doing a lot of things, right? And I always say, as a teenager, there's two things, in my opinion, my humble opinion, there's two things that force you to grow up really, really quick when you're a teenager. And that's teenage pregnancy, whether you're the father or the mom, or the loss of a parent. They make you grow up quick. So because your life is no longer about you. Right? And it's just my opinion. You get pregnant or you get someone pregnant at 16, 17, 18, 15, your life has changed forever. You lose a parent at that young age, your life has changed forever. You are now in a single parent household. You have every single brick stacked up against you. You can now fall into the statistic of future criminal, this, and this, but you can't make an excuse, right? It goes back to it. You can't make an excuse. And I was always taught that someone always has it worse than you. So don't make excuses. Someone always has it worse than you. Always. Regardless how bad you have it. Okay, you lost a parent, someone lost two parents. Right?
Your down is always someone else's up.
Right. Exactly. So that's my mindset. I always find a silver lining in things. Always. And people say, how come you're always so positive all the time? Because I got up in the morning. And as long as I can get up, everything else is secondary. I can deal with everything else. As long as I can swing my legs off the bed and get up, I'm good. I can deal with the difficult parent. I can deal with the fight on the bus. I can deal with I can deal with my gap outlier. I can deal with everything else, but I got to be able to get up.
Yeah.
And so that's why I thank the Lord every day that I can put my feet on the ground every day. And I say that publicly, privately, and it is what it is.
Dr. Lewis, thank you so much for being a part of our podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
Another great conversation. And I know I got nothing to say. I got nothing to say after hearing that, because that last statement, that last little piece is just perfect to me. And I think that's just, you said it all. Thank you.
Any words? Thanks for having me. If we want to do a part 3, let's do a part 3. I'd love to set up, I know we're all busy, like maybe set up a time we could visit each other's buildings. I don't know, for a half a day, 8:30 to a 12, or 12 to 2, just because I'm always willing to learn. And then when people have come to my school, or the school I keep saying my school, they're not gonna name it after me. That's what someone told me. So go home. When people come to the school I work in, the first thing they notice after being there for about a half hour, 45 minutes is that I haven't heard a bell. I said, no, we don't have bells. We don't have any bells in our school. I don't know if I told you guys that. We're a bell-less school.
Yeah.
No bells. And people are taking, so how do kids know when to switch, how to switch? Well, they've been conditioned. They know. Staff knows. But again, Des and Mark, it's setting that expectation. And when the people are asking that, it's this is me thinking. Sometimes it's the discipline that kids of color are not able to do. My mind goes there quickly. It goes there quickly. They're that disciplined. They know. They know to walk on the right. Walk on the right because I tell them, you got to walk on the right because one day you're going to drive. You got to drive on the right. So let's start practicing now. So just those little things, just, and just being, I love being visible. I don't spend a lot of time in the office. I think I told you guys that. My office has turned literally into like a storage room. I mean, I go in, I put my bag down, I do bus duty. I'm in the hallway, in classrooms, calf duty. It's just, I like to tell my wife I earn my sleep. I earn my sleep. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. So, guys, thanks for having me. Enjoy your breaks with your families, and let's have a prosperous new year.
Absolutely.
Right? Keep thinking about kids, and you always think about what teachers and what administrators did for you as kids. That's a lot of the driver of my work. I know I keep talking. I'm sorry. I just love what I do. It's just you think about in people that believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself. Right? Or when we were classroom teachers and someone tapped you on the shoulder and say, you know what? I think you'd be a great administrator. I'm not doing that. But people, I'm sure that's what's happened. People have tapped, they've seen you in specific roles, whether you're in a part of ILT or you're in a data team, and just certain ways our brains work. And a principal will say, you know what? You ever think about going to get your own 92? I ain't thinking about it. And then that same person, again, the consistency keeps tapping on your shoulder. I think you'd be good at it. And then you go and you finally say, you know what, honey? I think I'm going to go back to school. Right?
Live on that never say never statement.
Right.
Anytime I've said never, I say, no, I'm never doing that. I end up doing it.
You end up doing it.
Next thing, and then I move on to the next. That's why I say to people nowadays, I remember I was saying I'm going to never go back and get my doctorate. Now I'm in my head, I'm like, oh, maybe I do want to get that doctorate. I want to move on to that next one. So someone ever asked me, like, what do you want to do next? I said, we'll see when it happens now. I don't want to say it anymore because I know whenever I say it, now it turns into the next big quest. It's just better to just wait and just whatever's going to happen, it'll happen.
Right.
Des, any final words?
Not a one.
So with that, everybody, school's out.
Thank you, guys.
You all will be missed. Until then, I gotta blow you a kiss. Until we meet again on that other side, this my rhyme. We all love you to the end of this time, always. Know this, you all will be missed. Until then, I gotta blow you a kiss. Until we meet again on that other side, this my rhyme. We all love you to the end of this time, always.